I just so let everybody know we had a really great conversation before we started here, all about English Premier League and Manchester United in particular. So the expectations for the interview have been lowered because we've just had our fun discussing the upcoming Premier League season for the last 30 minutes. So
We're on a high, and it can only
that's
go
right.
up.
Yes. We're only watching anymore for that. So anyway, thank you for taking the time, and obviously really enjoyed that conversation. It's
Likewise, Steve.
always good to talk to somebody who's knowledgeable about English soccer. People we talk to like, yeah, right, okay, whatever. It's really good. So anyway, thank you for taking the time this afternoon. It's a pleasure to talk to you. So tell us a bit about you and tell us a bit about your software and what you do.
Sure. So my name is Justin Lohman. I helped found a company called Rithmai AI here in the US. And there's three of us co-founders. And where do I start? I didn't even know when we were beginning what to call ourselves, not the company, but like, what are we? And so I guess what we would be called, we figured it out pretty quickly because our chief engineer is absolutely phenomenal. And he said, well, we're, software as a service. So to put us into a category just to help with this, this conversation, we created what we believe is the next level. It's not a CRM. Everybody knows what a CRM is, dominated by Salesforce and Viva in the medical and pharmaceutical space, really in the sales world. But I've used those type of products for almost 20 years, and I've always thought something was missing. So what we did was we built the next generation, not a CRM, more software as a service. But it really helps salespeople understand where to spend their time. And what is more important to a salesperson than knowing where to spend their time? That befuddles me. If there's a different answer, somebody should let me know. But
right.
That's what everybody wants to know when they start, especially if you get a territory and you take over, whether it's a franchise, a team, a territory, whatever you're starting. If you have a list of prospects or no one, and you just have kind of a category you need to take on, if you could wave a magic wand when you began and said, where should I spend my time? That would be the most valuable thing you could do.
Yeah.
And that's what Rhythm helps with. So I think we've already established the need.
Yes. No question about that. I mean, work with salespeople, being a salesperson, and employed salespeople, knowing what is the focus, where to focus, has always been a difficult piece. And I always thought like HubSpot and Salesforce, the giant Rolodexes with other pieces tagged on. But
that's right.
And essentially it's just a Rolodex, and you may be able to create your own sales funnel, but it's certainly based on sales ideas of tens of years ago, and just continued on with that. So tell us a bit about how Rithmai AI differentiates itself in those areas.
Sure. So it's really the first of its kind. We call it a sales optimization technology. So unlike a data repository, which is what I would consider CRMs, those are great. And outside of the sales world, if you're using it for marketing and things like that, fantastic tools, right? You can integrate everything, send it out. That's wonderful. But if you make your sales and money by going and visiting with people, and you have kind of a universe of clients, knowing where to focus is really that key. So you might have 1,000 clients given to you by a company if you worked for a pharmaceutical or medical company, and they said, hey, go figure out where you can get the 50 people that are going to run your business.
Yes.
Well, that's a huge whittling down from 1,000 to 50 people.
Right.
So we help tremendously with that process. Essentially, you're giving yourself a business audit, and you're telling the program what you think will be the best plan, or your company can push that plan down to you and you can execute. One thing I've always noticed in the sales world is you get a lot of leeway and a lot of trust, and there's always people at the top and there's always people that struggle. They're just drinking through a fire hose.
Right.
And those people drink through a fire hose. If you have to fire them, they thank you when you get rid of them, because they're like, this was not for me.
Right.
And whenever I hired people, they would always say, oh my gosh, you're doing a really good job. How do I do what you're doing? And it's not like you're doing anything special. You just kind of understood the business, and you understand customer service, and you understand where to spend your time. That's what I narrowed it down over 20 years or so of sales to. okay, well, if I can be better at knowing where to spend my time and being at the right place at the right time, I'm going to beat everybody
Yeah.
in whatever I'm selling. And I want to win, and I expect to win. I don't want to lose. So
Right.
essentially with Rhythm, it's a tool, if you were brand new, if you were taking over a territory, um, we'll talk about medical and pharma because that's kind of what we specialize in. That's our background. If you're a pharmaceutical salesperson, you get a whole new product line, you go to a new company, you get a new territory, you've experienced some sort of change, or you're just brand new to this, industry.
Yeah.
Day one, you don't know which way is up. You don't know. That's not a straw. That is a fire hose you're drinking out of. So what we help you organize, plan, do all of those things. It's kind of like I said, that next step to a CRM that actually helps the salesperson go to the next level.
Yeah.
And so, if you were day one calling a bunch of offices saying, hey, when are you available? Is there a best time to meet? Are you appointment only? Are you virtual only? How would you store all that in Excel? In a CRM that's not going to tell you where to go. Actually, we use artificial intelligence to then help you plan everything out. And so it really takes the load off so you can just sell. And what we want to create at Rhythm AI is sales technology for truly made by salespeople for salespeople.
Salespeople, right?
Because you can just tell when something is just made by engineers, the language is off.
Oh,
they
sure,
don't
yeah.
use the language.
Yeah.
We have customized all of that. So
Well,
people really like that.
yeah, I like that because I developed some software that was in for marketing for franchisors to distribute their marketing materials to all their stores or their retail outlets. And one of the things we discovered was you can have fantastic engineers, which we did, but they don't know how to design a user interface. It's an engineer's interface. And so we also had a crew that did nothing but design the interfaces, which we then gave to the engineers and said, this is what it's going to look like. And
then it was great.
You do the background and don't touch the front. So I fully get what you're talking about when you talk about by salespeople for salespeople. Because it's and that was 2014, around 2014. But that whole area of user interfaces keeps on developing and growing. And what I love about it at the moment is it's going back towards being more simplistic. Yes. It just got overly complicated, and now people are taking it back and going, okay, scale this back a bit. There are too many things going on in here, and we've lost that user-friendly feel because we want to put all this stuff into it. So it sounds like
we're always studying and testing and asking ourselves, is this too complicated? Is this too much? Because everybody wants to be everything for everybody. And I just don't think that is the approach in this day and age. There's too much good technology out there.
Yeah.
And salespeople are probably some of the least tech savvy people on earth.
That's true. Yes.
We make our money by talking and listening and one-on-one and face-to-face. And that's what we enjoy. We don't want to be coding in the background and
that's right.
All these new features. I went through a CRM onboarding session, I guess not that long ago in Relativity.
Yeah.
And I think they said, plan 8 hours to go through everything.
Yes.
And I thought, there's only like 3 or 4 functions anyone needs to know here. How can you email us the instructions?
Well, there's Action Coach, the company I work for, they've just taken on a new CRM, and that's the same thing. There's like hours of videos that you can watch, and it's just like, I'm supposed to be coaching business people, and I'm supposed to be out there meeting people all the time. I don't have the time to sit in front of this and add features into it that I want, that I think I need. It should be something that's straightforward, simple to use, because that's not where the best use of my references. It's not the best use of my time, because at the end we make money when we're actually selling for the company that we're working for, and not when we're using their software. Maybe okay for somebody back at the office to be able to hit a few buttons and get reports on how you're doing, but the time it takes to put the data in to create those reports is just not worth it.
I couldn't have said any better myself.
It blows my mind about that. So what took you down this path? I mean, I know you've been involved in pharmaceutical sales for a while, and
Right.
you're going down this path.
So I've been in the sales industry for 20 years, mainly medical and pharma. And I only know one person in tech because I'm your typical salesperson in that
Yes.
sense. I don't know all the engineers of the world, but the guy is so talented and he's a family friend that he invented the smartphone actually. And when I called him about this problem, it was probably 10 years ago. Um, he said, "Huh, sounds interesting. Let me play around with this." And when he called me back, I'd almost kind of forgotten about, the idea in a sense. And he said, I'll take that on. And I thought, oh, this is either the best or worst day of my life because I was going to start a business. But really, I kind of let it go for a little bit. And then somebody else came in and said, this is a fantastic idea. We got to help these people. So I was a trainer at a rather large pharmaceutical company for a couple years. And every time I rode with people, I would say, can I see your plan for the day? And out of over 100 people that I rode with, less than 5 people had a plan. And they knew I was going to get in their car for the day. And I
Yeah.
thought, this is a real problem. And so it morphed from just planning and routing and all of the things that day-to-day salespeople go to,
Yeah.
and then talking to the engineer, you know, this guy also worked at Amazon in their web services department, and he knew and managed the AI department for Amazon. So, they understand AI. And I thought,
Yeah.
well, I mean, if this guy's dream is to do AI, that wasn't really my dream, but why not,
Yes.
And so, really it's about automating things. We're at that point in life. Anything that is repeatable, if you can take that workload off somebody, they can be more productive in another way.
Yes.
And so one of our little mantras at our company is the input is it the output is worth the input. Sorry, I misspoke it for front.
That's good.
And so you put a little bit work in because you need to.
Yeah.
And then, our program really says this is how you should do everything. And it's remarkable. I've never seen anything like it. It's next level. It's really fun to use. It's fun to share with other people. People, buy the product from us, and
Yeah.
the quotes that we have on our website are really from the salespeople, and they're like, I wish I had this day one of my sales.
Right.
It's
When I looked at your website, I thought the routing where I come from, routing here, feature was really unique.
Thank you. Yes, it is. I mean, nobody else does what we do.
Yeah.
And we do something in prospecting as well, which is really cool, that really wouldn't have been available 10 years ago. I mean, just because of how much tech has come along. Had I started my first job with Rhythm, I can't even tell you how much money I would have made. It would have been an unfair advantage like nobody else because the prospecting was so hard then. I mean, they gave you a phone book. They didn't even give you a phone book. You went to each municipality in each city and grabbed a phone book and said,
Right.
opened it up and said, where do I go? And
Yeah.
so I think seeing the whole process, I actually worked straight commission for 10 years.
Mhm.
And you have to make that living. I'm a pretty skinny guy. I used to joke that, it was mac and cheese or nothing really. And it was great though. It kept you on your toes. It made you fight for every sale, every dollar. You learned customer service, and just going through that grind early on really made my brain develop the way. It's no more special than anybody else's. I just saw a different lens.
Right.
And I saw that this need and this problem was immense. So I thought it's time. Somebody's got to fix it. Why not us? So,
Why not indeed? I mean, so you launched this when?
So we've been working on it for, I guess, almost 10 years. We had an MVP, minimally viable product, maybe 4 years ago, three. I don't even know. The time is just gets away from us, but it's been a passion to work on. But now we're, a profitable business that has enough users to sustain ourselves and that sort of thing. But I would say, actually the pandemic really helped blossom that because the world changed again. It became more virtual, and we still could help with some of those. In fact, we added virtual. That wasn't really on anybody's radar before, but pretty quickly we added things like that. So I would say we've been in business, actually in business for just a few years now.
Yes, yeah, getting out there. Yeah, that whole lockdown and the pandemic thing. It's a surprising number of people that those that were willing to pivot and willing to innovate did so well out of it. Unfortunately, it's like the smaller business owners that got hit the hardest from those sort of things. But I've talked to so many people through coaching business and through this program, and they were just able to. I talked to a guy who just the other day who was planning on opening up gelato storefronts, and the pandemic came along just as they were about to start, and he pivoted and started marketing to restaurants who sell his product and brand his product for him. And so he's gone away from doing a storefront because now he doesn't have all that liability of the office space. And it's that, that ability to want to change and adapt. And one of the themes that runs through these interviews is, that the people that we talk to, the successful ones have always had to make some changes along the way. They've had to make some pivots along the way, even dramatic ones, but they've always had to be willing to do that. And it's interesting because there's so many different businesses that don't make it because they get stuck in a rut and in a routine, and they don't see, they lose sight of why they were in business in the first place.
Right. No, I totally agree. I think you have to be flexible, you have to be determined, you have to be persistent. I mean, all these things, but the one thing that we know is a constant is change, right? And change is hard. Human nature is not to want to change. And there is a balance and a dynamic where you think, and I think sometimes it's good to be starting up at a difficult time versus, maybe you had just crossed that chasm and you're like, okay, we made it. And now it's, oh man, everything we were doing just changed. That's so hard. Maybe we go out of business. In medical is a little more dynamic than pharmaceutical. And that's really because of compliance and laws and patenting and how long it takes to bring something through, because you can't harm a bunch of people. And we don't want that to change in that sense. But I think with pharmaceuticals, those companies that are a little more nimble, a little more dynamic, they don't have the resources, but they can make up a lot through efficiency.
Yes.
What we really want to help with is optimization and efficiency. If you're not looking for little ways to become better at that, we probably can't help you,
Yeah.
But most people will admit that is something we're looking for. So we're in a great space.
It is, and then the scalability of your product too, being a software as a service, provides opportunities all over the place. I would imagine it's just looking at big sales organizations. It's all different sizes of those organizations, and especially with some of the features that you have, even the smaller organizations are going to benefit greatly from it because of the time savings and cost savings and everything else that goes into that, maximizing that. And so it's the people a lot of people start a business because they're passionate about whatever that business is, and they get going with it, and their business background's not that great, and so they hit this bump where they have to try and adapt to being in business and not just the owner of a business. And so many of them end up just working in the business and stuff, and they don't have time to put the head up and see the tools that are available, like you guys and what you do. And do you market at all? Do you do much marketing, or is it really just referrals?
It's mainly referrals. We do some marketing. Actually, one of the things that we kind of always want improvement on is marketing. And I think one of the difficulties, probably a question we would talk about as a new business owner, relatively new business owner, is understanding where you should spend your budget, right? Like, in the beginning, if you have limited funds, you need to be resourceful and things like that. But not everybody's an expert in marketing or, whatever field that you really need help with. And understanding where you should spend your time, your money, your networking. I mean, it's funny, we talk about in sales where to spend your time. As an owner, you have to think about where you're going to spend your time as well, and where you're going to spend those resources. So we want to increase our marketing spend tremendously, but we're there's a chicken and an egg with marketing, right? Do you have
Yeah,
to bring in those clients to get your funds up high enough, and things like that. So those are internal discussions for us weekly, if not monthly.
yeah. It's really really weird. In the coaching business, we talk about the fact that marketing is often seen, especially by accountants, as being an expense and not an investment.
It's an investment.
And it's got to be an investment as long as you have a way to test and measure how those marketing efforts are paying off. And you've got to be willing to say, nope, that one didn't work. And the number of people that I coach that were running ads that were just spending money on ads, but couldn't tell you whether or not they brought any business in. And once they started measuring those things and putting codes in ads or putting QR codes on things or whatever, they're like, well, that was a waste of money. Well, that's the whole point. You have to be able to do that, but it's that knowledge and that business knowledge that when you're starting your own business, you don't think about things like that because you're just passionate about what you're selling and what you're making, what you're manufacturing.
Right.
And so it's getting the word out about all the great tools like yours and things that people can get into. That is always the most interesting challenge to me when I work with an owner to try and get them to where they're being. You got to really drill down into what they're doing.
I will say we do have a podcast that one of our co-founders has started. That's a really good marketing tool. We get on podcasts, we do interviews like this. There are marketing. We're resourceful with it at this time.
Right.
We also understand that it is an investment if you do it right. It can be an expense. Yes. Absolutely.
Yeah.
In fact, some sales organizations look at salespeople as expenses, but I would venture to say the people who are profitable are not an expense. They are the people making the money. That's the bloodline of the company. So, I understand everybody has a different viewpoint.
It's many years ago, but one of the people that was involved in the venture that brought me to the United States in the first place once told me that a salesperson is non-revenue generating. And it's just like, I may be young, but I'm pretty sure I've learned enough to know that may not be the case.
Well, they're not a salesperson if they're not revenue generating.
Right, exactly. Yes, they shouldn't even be in your organization.
Right.
Because they say it's chicken and the egg, right? If you're employing a new salesperson, you have to have some sort of ramp up speed, but it's your responsibility as the owner to provide them with the tools to get them up to speed in the first place.
Well, on that point, one thing that we did is we looked into how much ramp up we help with, and so turnover in outside sales is around 30% a year. And as you know, there was the Great Resignation through the pandemic.
Sure.
So those numbers are probably up. Sales is difficult. It takes a certain personality. I mean, I think many people can do it. It's just getting the right training or the right tools, like you're saying, to make that an investment so you can grow the company. Long story short, one of the biggest problems I saw for pharmaceutical companies and medical companies was this turnover. And I thought, wouldn't it be great if you could capture all that business intelligence and plug and play the new person in if you promote, if you lose, or if you have to fire somebody, right? Or if you split a territory in half and you're going to put somebody new in, you can code those zip codes or those cities over, and now they can hit the ground running. So we say it usually takes 6 to 18 months. I'm more conservative and say 6 to 12 months, or maybe that's less conservative. I think you should get ramped up quicker. But with our program, Rithmai AI, it really takes about 6 weeks, 4 to 6 weeks to be fully ramped up.
Wow.
So you can focus on sales and training, not so much on routing, planning, targeting, prospecting, the things that people, I think, struggle with because you don't learn those things in school.
That's right.
Never had a class on anything that's real world in that kind of sales. Maybe the business part, but not the part we're just discussing.
Yeah, that's true enough. I mean, people come out of school not equipped for much in a lot of cases, but certainly not equipped for getting the knowledge to be sales. And the pressure on people, especially those that are in the commission only, eat what you kill, basically. And that's a tough place to start, and it takes a totally different mindset. And any tools that you can have that helps you be in front of people more often has got to be of great value to people. So I appreciate chatting. How can people learn more about you?
Yeah, likewise. So our website is www.rithmai.com. You go to that. You can contact us through the website. We're always open to doing demos. You can do trials. I think our first month is just $1, which is pretty remarkable. So you're not out a lot if not for your industry.
Yeah.
I'm on LinkedIn as well. My name is Justin Lohman. You can look up and follow Rhythm AI. That's Rithmai. And just so you know, rhythm is short for algorithm. And it's kind of a play on words that when you're in the zone or you're in sales and you're in rhythm,
Yeah.
you're going to be doing your best. So that's how we kind of came up with that. And then
Yeah.
the AI part is pretty easy.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, and then my email is actually simple when you're a small company, justin@rhythmai.com. There's only one Justin with us right now, so I'm going to keep that as long as I can.
Yeah, hang on to that as long as you can. Well, it's been a pleasure talking to you before, and this conversation here has been great, and I really appreciate you taking the time, and hope you have a great weekend.
Thank you, Keith. You too.
I'll
Really
talk to you soon. Thanks.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Take care.